consigliamo spazio per Malduis, con il quale voleva specificamente per programmi non politici, ma niente per obbligare.
It's really wonderful to come out to the current day of the International Perma Youth Convergence. I've been hearing about this from Mount Ego for quite some time. It was very hard to understand the scale and how I knew there was a lot of preparation, but actually what this all means. Oh, Mount Ego! I'm talking about you. So great that you're here now as well. So I think Mount Ego you all know, he needs no introduction, but just a little word about how we met was through music. And then we have a small program which supports art and culture exchange. So we arranged a coffee and we went to Leti for Whole Coffee and you came along with James and I thought, why are we here talking about agriculture? So you've converted me now.
Mana Caitlin expliquei tu anuisa nia delle hatene con va promatia no consegue conhece mon ego nos promatia nia programa sira ide yang kata sira inicio hasoro ho musika hasoro sara tambah musika mas ide final mon ego convite mana Caitlin sai hem cafe untuk Timor style aku conhece mal dia então niamai hemotia cafe hemoto no mon ego explica como va prometeu no acampamento mas bem mana Caitlin lah tene insight tu no livro se Austrália nia serviço mas sirahare ba insa serviço suporta framework di UN deve quale con mudanza climatica no insa tebele adapta kapra para ba adaptação então OIN atau kalau Falitan konferensi IDA nebe atau akontesi Pasifik ini larang konoba konferensi konoba mudanza climatica no ini adaptação saya masih precisa preparar.
And just a few more words about our bid to host COP31. Our proposal is to co-host with Pacific Island countries with the idea of having a much greater focus on climate change in the Asia-Pacific region. With it and looking at from the lens of Blue Pacific, of course Timor-Leste is at the crossroads of Pacific and Asia, but being an ocean country as well, having a focus on Pacific Timor Island nations in the region is an area that hasn't had so much attention.
Então, parte de Austrália no Timor-Leste nia bidding atau hetan oportunidade atau hosting dia COP31 di konferensi nia. Maka Timor ia perempatan di antara desculpa harus bahasa baru entre Asia Pasifik nomos nação ilha. Então itu se Anasan dulu fale Timor aku sai host mai vede nesse processo dela. Australia mak dukung dalam proses aku sai host konferensi.
So I've spoken a little about global commitments, working through a multilateral system, trying to help set global standards and hold other countries and ourselves to account. And we also work on specific approaches and programs in the region. And then I'll now focus on a range of programs in Timor-Leste, just at a high level.
Mana Caitlin quality ona ba itani aproximação relação Austrália aproximação no commitment ba comunidade nian unsa nação sira bele porque comunidade ba adaptação nomos prepara nini povo nini ambiente ba mudança climática no agora yaitu qual é tuan para específico aproximação específico.
In Timor-Leste, we support climate adaptation, climate policy, conservation, environment, water through a range of our engagement. So we have an agriculture program which is called TOMAC. So we have links to supporting agriculture productivity, enhancing productivity, and also trying to enhance better ways of farming in 3 municipalities. So that's TOMAC. I'll come back to ACR, which is run by Louise. We have some central government programs where we work with, say, Department of Finance, with foreign affairs, with infrastructure, transport, and then looking at issues such as how you support climate finance, renewable energy, and resilient infrastructure. So those are the first 2.
Ho idene Australian MC, Ambassador Australia, mos suporta programa ide naran tomak, parece colega balon conhece o programa idene. Nebe suporta agricultura produtivo e município tolu. Idene usi programa idene no ACR, nebe orside maluis lo momento sequalia. Sira se fokus dia bahasa ni objektivo. Objektivo aku hareba bisa aku ajuda ho adaptação. Kedua mak hareba politika. Politika seri mak precisa prepara hodi timur de asuru mudança climática nebe se enfrente ini se hasuru ini. Sira mos hareba conservação ambiente, nomos conservação batu. Sira harebe hansan buat diri saya importante liuba sira ina politika nomos programa.
We also provide some funding to international NGOs which are active in Timor-Leste, particularly on disaster risk reduction and community development. That also has supports climate adaptation. And we also, under one of our big programs, Participa, support a set of projects and initiatives to improve access to water, and that also links to some research through UNS.
Então, a Embaixada Australia é parceiro na Universidade de Serviço Mútuo, nós inclui Ministério de Finanças, Ministério Estrangeiro, no transporte, a tu hari, eu pensar tu hadiamos infraestrutura nebe bele prepara ka hari hodi comunidade sir bele sada senti asseguro gusi risco ga luta risco ga mudança climática nia idene Embaixada Australia mos serviço mútuo ko NGO international balun incluímos iha programa nebe harga risco redução risco de desastre na acontecer. Nós haremos a infraestrutura, desenvolver a infraestrutura base minha, para preparar a comunidade para desastres se acontecer. Nós, Embaixada Austrália, se serviço muito para participar quando o programa usa acesso bate no idene mos se la sala de pesquisa boa ida devemos como parceiro implementador sira balun a sala permitiu nos parte outro irmã.
And we also, and Georgia is one of our volunteers, we have several volunteers who are here today. Maybe all our volunteers, Australian API, can you put your hands up? Where are you? I saw a few of you. You're being shy. I can see someone at the back. It's great to see you anyway. We have a formal program, Australian Volunteers International. We also support placements both out here. One of our volunteers is coming down. She's in Amera. And some are based in uni, but we're getting more people out to work directly as part of communities and to support community programs.
Australia Embassy Ambassador Australia mau serviço muito pro programa ida be naran volunteer Australia ba desenvolvimento internacional deve ao nascer mostrai volunteer voluntário ida no usi programa ida ne mak dia volunteer husi Australia mak mais serviço muito com organização parceiro nia deve atu hari nunsa atu hasai capacidade ia organização nia laran no dalam rumah parceiro mos itu informatil então dalam rumah itu hetan Mount James deve mos entrados por balon no colega sira balon deve hansa manatara deve serviço muito com organização ide ia entera nema katu hak basic serviço basic com sira laos ia nível estadunia laos nível INGO-nya nível com sira.
So that's a snapshot. In conclusion, I can also say that we have a 5-year strategy for our development partnership with Timor-Leste, and in that strategy, and that's a public strategy, it's called the Australia Timor-Leste Development Partnership Plan. We've committed to not just doing climate-specific programs, but also bringing in climate sensitivity and community resilience across different programs that we work with. In particular, we're really interested in how we support youth and civil society engagement in climate change. So that's why it's really great to see so many of you here.
Manakailan kuali kono strategia 5 tahun ba unia. Debe ambassador Australia mak hari hela no law hela. Ne inclui ne hansa parceiro entre governo Australia no parceiro Timor-Leste nia. Ide ne naran plano parceiro entre Estados Unidos kalau lalita terus balik. Mai ne hari ba programa climático nia. Mai law spesifikamente ba mudança climática. Hansa infraestrutura sira deve ohimnya explica, mas vemos arriba essa povo sira, jovem sira, organização civil sira, NGO sira, belemos rola parte da socialização para mudança climática, ambiente sira nian, nomos atu hasai resiliência, força comunitária nian, atu hasoro mudança deve acontecer climaticamente. Obrigada.
So that's the end of my formal remarks, and we'll now pass to Q&A, and I'll ask Nana Luis to come up as well.
Parte formal do Tona agora ele passa para falar para sessão perguntas. Obrigado, Bar.
Mas então eu tenho bastante uma casa lá de também tenho bastidora. Eu espero que a comana Georgia minha tradição e que eu bela compreende a mensagem sira nebe mata tenho bastidora hato baita. Liliu kona ba política no programa sira nebe mata embaixador australiano formula hamutu ko itane governo Timor-Leste no mo serviço hamutu ko sociedade civil o jovem sira liliu ko programa sira mudança climática ne bahalo estratégia para adaptação no resiliente hasoro impacto de mudança climática ne laos el passo específico sernes digamos hare toba iha oisa hare infraestrutura den bemada resiliente hasoro mudança climática den bema acontece. Awanoy hanesne agora que estava passando perguntas matang apoinde isi mensagem sirane ira colega sira ira dúvidas no agora kato hato dúvidas rumah ka lona que soal sira rumah deve durante na colega sira observa no acontece ira Timor-Leste dele a oportunidade para colega feita na indua romana na indua vai sessão primeiro depois também tá logo sessão segundo. Okay.
Dia obrigado. Boa tarde a todos. Agradecer também a embaixadora Mana pela marca presença aqui na praia como tu visto ahorita itu bahasa di unggahan embaixadora. Atau Parteneriat kata ke Conseil de Permacultura Maisi Australia. Ia colega representante novo, depois de Juan, colega permacultura na Steve, ia introduz ideia permacultura mais Timor. Permacultura harus narang pom, mas prática nerasi kalau si dia dia. Então, a ideia de colega permacultura mai, então a ita reforça Kodi hamosu sistema permacultura ni maka Timor Indonesia. Dan maka kita establece permadir, agora permadir global, kita ya susam permadir, e agora itu pouco atau globaliza ideia permacultura ni iha Timor, nomos dan maka kita ni delegação si internacional permai, ia parte ni arti celebra konaba sama coisa conceito na prática permacultura atau tentang problema mudança climática ni memang komitol kita seru. Ainda nem maka lius permacultura colaboração entre Timor-Leste e Austrália sai dia keletang, espera kata koi ini também bera sai exemplo dia kat bel bairro nação Seychelles. So I would like to thanks the ambassador is getting that presence today, this afternoon. Just would like to inform that permaculture concept is actually introduced from Australia back in '99 by one of the Australian volunteer through humanitarian aid. But the system itself is already here. So the idea is that the permaculture is just to strengthen what we already have, to make it Timorese permaculture, that we could make it more global, that we could share around the world. That's why today we have many delegates coming from all over the world, the continent here, including from permaculture Australia. So we here through permaculture is strengthening the relationship between Australia and Timor-Leste more strong, and then hopefully we could create a model that we could share throughout the region and also the world to address the climate change issue. Thank you very much.
Tentang dia tetangga bahasa sama perguntas nohatan dari kolega rumah atau perguntas baritannya ambassador beliau masuk politik atau programa segera bema kata halau nanya keluar. Ya dúvidas não é da oportunidade da colega também Bruno mana não bele hato narang completo no para direita ya perguntas. Silakan.
Obrigado, Juvencio Santos, bahwa sudah ada presiden Jepang naik dan menjadi representan Jepang di Timor-Leste. Hoje, o embaixador Kureto Kunaba mensaí tabele suporte de jovem Sira, como assistência social. Então, interessante bahwa kita hari mudança climática nos permacultura se observida, kita observação durante esse serviço muito com juventude do município, a hari kata kalabarak akor lokal akornya lagu play Luciano itu baru sih lebih ke dalam hari yang hari ini zaman barat juga aktif jadi ini dalam aktif liu baru sih lebih ya base tahun liga sih lebih dalam barat sih tarik atau saya selalu kerap koros nanti kita hari kata sih yang Instagram oleh problema yang liu sih lebih kata saya susah muda oleh Instagram atau bah saya susah punya formal mos Kristi mos kapasitas bayar semuanya transformasi. Abarian dia kata tidak lebih mak sentili mak sih lebih base. Tam kari ko oi sih yang partnership dari Timor-Leste Australia kari ko oi tabel hari kata si sulawe tabel kari hari existensia so at meli tabel kari iha potensial so emak si bele iha tiga ros karga boleh berbagus klimatika untuk life itu bayar. Juga orang Indonesia saya sampai sama durante tahun itu nomos pasir buat tertibas baik kita support Australia bayar yang internasional ini orang Indonesia saya sampai kau kita beli hari amu tu saya bisa masuk balik ke wilayah ini. Obrigado.
Obrigada, Barak. Manager.
I will translate Juvencio from the Child Fund. His question was and reflection. When we talk about young people and youth who are part of these programs, we observe, especially from Child Fund's perspective, that in the municipalities they want to be and want to be involved as local actors, and the main sort of organisations or people involved in the municipalities. And in Dili, there's a really high level of participation, but in the municipalities, there's still a barrier, right? There's still a gap, and Maun Juvencio said that perhaps one of the gaps in his reflection is that for people and young people, especially in the municipality level, to become an organisation or an association, there is a barrier for them to become a recognised group or even legalised, perhaps. And that means that they, there's a gap between getting opportunities to then become implementing partners, perhaps, as young people, or becoming a potential CSO or organisation where they can access resources to implement permaculture activities or agriculture activities. So there's a big difference between young people in Dili and the cities and young people's participation in the municipalities.
I'll say one thing quickly and pass to my colleagues. It's a really good point, so I think that's helpful for us as we prepare new programs. And our other colleague, Mount Aaron, just wave Aaron. If you want to talk to Mount Aaron afterwards about a new program we're developing to support climate resilience, please go and have a chat. It's a really important point for us to think about on the formal side. I was out in Atabai last week, and through our TOMAC program, we're going right to farm level. So that's different again. So we actually spent an afternoon at a farm run by a young farmer. So there are ways as well. It doesn't all have to be through an organisation. So I think there are some learnings we might be able to build in to pick up on some of these issues.
What's that? Malakaitan dari katak atau aumenta dia trabalho, ini mau nia reflexão sai importante que teve mais ita também ita hareba programa phone be se desenvolve ela livre embaixada Austrália, nomos senior programa Toma, sira se hareba assunto jovem sira nia participação no semana kotuk sira batia jovem ida nia tos deve nia halo ida akabai no ni aku dah hendak kata kalau rumah ini barrier ka sada participasi pada teman-teman bahasanya. Jadi agora se harei satu site ya evita desafio dificuldade atau asal jovem sira no heta mostranya participação nesse programa dan sini dia para desenvolver programa novo. Vamos passar lá.
Boa tarde, beta boa tira roto. Awak minta tamu tuan deh si buat lebih ambasador patentiona atau hati sini program itu hal governo Australia mai hal timor lá mais específico para a medida, mais para emotor. Agora, ao colher a perspectiva da agricultura minha, a agricultura e também de a escola é importante para generar e botar a liga também ida a muito ida mostrar a economia deve halo desenvolvimento da agricultura e tanoi atau jovem sira envolvimento makas kita Ade hal kompor ho mau subvensi deha kita ne jovem para la hare setor agricultura hanesa setor principal atrativo para ita lor imbole lor poti buat nebe lor lor buat nebe tasol hanesa parta program maihan depois mo sai remunerasi atau situasi kita ne tampaknya api parte pesquisa mo sanoi hela ale de projeto coach nora ambasador dengan kuna katoma, ia mos proyek agrikultura kalau kuna MDF, kuna kafeho, akian animal, di Asia mos alok pesquisa, unsa atu buka alternativo no para cria condição jovem sira bele ama iha setor principal sa agricultura e Timor. Mas em princípio itakara jovem para envolve iha setor ia kita, porque dengan aman situ ke idari pati no ka bebe ko kasi na forsa na tunto at continua au na pati to antau atu dia poin ene iha kita jovem sira beli no noi kita how mental kan mau mabek ko. Okay, just quickly in English, I just commented to add more things to the ambassador just mentioned that in principle all the programs that support Timor-Leste, we are not targeting any specific groups. We are targeting all communities in Timor-Leste. For the case of in agriculture sector, because the agriculture sector is one of the main sectors in Timor-Leste, that play an important role to fulfill the case of at the moment, the persistent case of food insecurity and also malnutrition, and also one of the main sector to diversify economy for Timor-Leste. We are thinking of how to involve more young generation, young people to involve in agriculture sector, because at the moment we also agree with both Mount Rubens just mentioned that numbers of young people getting involved in agriculture is less at the moment. So one of the ways to do it from the research perspective is how to bring some of the, we call it locally available innovation or technologies that can benefit or can attract young generation to involve in agriculture sector. So one day we can slowly to fulfill the case of lack of food insecurity and also malnutrition and economic diversification for Timor-Leste. Thank you.
Dia obrigado ao Manuel Monjo Bense bot na reflexão ne ao Manuel ni dia Pérez se ita refleta itu anta juventude sira ya faktor barat maksai bele motiva bele mos desmotiva se ita dehan ya nasional juventude ne participação ne barat as ne ya faktor barat se ita fila bai ha suku aldea del barat juventude sira niya motivação minus leo nemos tambah faktor barat maybe hosi sedang ako hinin ambassador dehan iha programa fongida foi dezeno ami bolo programa resiliência programa ida ne ita hari sang oportunidade di bot liu ba oin atau serviço ho itania parceiro sira mos parceiro sira se serviço ho itania CSO ho in boundaries payment ne ita hari kata oportunidade ba ONC maybe ONC itania juventude sira itania ONC sira participa iha proseso sira betul-betul maybe lawas programa resiliência dia maybe programa ONC ba iha suku ka adea how Hanoi faktor ida mak dal barak unit botemi barriere ida mak unsa mak konaba gestão grupo dal barak nível suku aldeia nível ia mais barriere selok mos dalam gestão faktor motivação dal barak jovem sira sira hilelio atau mai participa evento para iha sedari duke sira mais aktivo iha setor produktif sira ia sira suku aldeia. Então ita concorda kata baoin ia oportunidade para no ita buka maneira oin atau encourage juventude sira iha sira patin atau berpartisipa aktivo di hutan dia program OIN. Yeah, I'm summarizing this. What Mount Jovenson reflection is true. There is many factors influencing young people participation in many program, particularly because of
motivation. So because of the managerial or technical or aspects. But in reality, young people, in the reality at the moment, young people more comes to the city because there are many factors influencing when it comes to the city. But as Ambassador mentioned, we have a new program that we are designing process. We call it Resiliencia. Resiliencia will be provide opportunity, and we will be more working with our implementing partners, and will be have opportunity working with the CSOs locally. So what is mean that we'll be have opportunity for young people to be able to participate in any processes, and it's not only Resiliencia, but also many programs will be implemented in Sukul and other levels, and will be more opportunity for young people to be able to participate.
Obrigada, Barack, sebagai resposta você, Ambassador, aos colegas que não devemos aportar. Também tem a sessão dua Idane, sessão dua parte Idane, também depois de ir a mão dela da apresentação. A foto uma oportunidade para colega Pedro Sira, na ida atau halo perguntas, depois kita tambah pada seksão música assim. Também kita sehingga 21 minutos, colega rumah mesti akan kegiatan Amabe aku prioridade para Peto grup tambahin mana karena dari kolega Peto rumah karena Peto kolega Peto. I would like to give an opportunity for you first because there is already some of them. Yeah. Iya kolega Peto sih? Ya foto dulu oke ama. Ya. Bela. Coba bahasa liman makas dari mana?
Obrigada pela oportunidade de ver como pada bulan kita masih merasa konektif dan begini. Ada sih seru tuh berarti begini. Tahunnya narang ya orang siap pribadi, siap di suku patutnya tadi itu. Quando vai pesquisar o orçamento da apresentação, não for resposta ao irmão de minha, a não iniciar. Não podíamos quando a jovem se volver a não possível. Viri que vou ter na noite, por situação se ele não com ona me assegura vida morte timor. Se cari lá na com o insa, saya nak kita hadiah berbeda halo. Nasa una niya kung sila sa itiyak labilhan sa uling kaniya, dia sidari diri, dia piyu jovem sila ni volumen tiga cualquier actividad, may dia arerurai sila. Dari kami usah kita pesquisador sila bela por resposta, sekarang sila daw na kung para kanya jovem sila ni volumen sila ko ekonomiya di kanya peke. Porte betani nasa una, sa dia may kanya haro ba ito.
Obrigada, Barak, ao direito Teresibai.
Obrigado, Barak, chefe suku, mana Liosia. So earlier, mana Liosia, who is actually the head of Fapakero village, very cool. She was asking as another reflection or an additional question about young people's participation. Her question is very important to all of us, but I'll let you all add to it. Isn't it time that young people held and were taking more responsibility or being at the forefront of Timor's future? Because they are the future. So I guess how can we secure young people in Timor's future was her main question.
Wow, that's a great question. And both it's a good question for the panel and a good one for you at a youth permaculture convergence. And then as part of your communities to keep having these discussions.
Irene, umas perguntas dia ba itu buat sih dari turi ya deh, ngebiti no musik kedera, tapi ini mus oleh ba wisa permacultura no jovens deve halibur ga queer hela formação permacultura ni mos pele hakar ba oin ho matene ko buat deve bele lori matene ba cria futuro ga cria condição dia ba tumor.
And from my perspective, I think the challenge I will keep asking for our team is that our programs, when we renew or we are changing the direction, that we make sure that it's not just youth, but when we say inclusion, we think about youth, women, people with disabilities, marginalised communities. But how do we make sure that programs are not just focused on people or communities that have always had the benefit? So it's not a simple answer, it's making sure that we're thoughtful and that when we are supporting programs, there are ways of allowing others to participate. I do think, and it's something we can build on, but there are some opportunities we offer, but we can think more carefully. Again, it builds on the first question. How do we support youth to get some opportunities that they might need a little bit of funding or a little bit of expertise, a bit of support? We do want youth to take the action yourselves because we can't be you. So I think in reverse, when we're doing consultation in future, will be good to hear what are the things that you think are holding you back. That's also coming back to my first point. That's a point to raise with your leaders, your communities, your institutions. So we're happy to look at it, but it's an important discussion with your own condition too.
Ini atas dia kalau you how ni perspektif rasik, mana film yang perspektif rasik, maka wahina bahasa Australia sira halot mudança brasileira minha política, programa da direção serviço nia, sira sempre noi o insight dele halibor LB se dá o que é oportunidade atau halibor programa ini. Liu é uma vulnerável sira ka LB minoridade sira hanasan veto hanasan comunidade sana desculpa hanasan emo deficiência no sira debe hela do sociedade rural debe mos ama to programa sira debe laona no mos ama to programa debe phone liu si embaixada Australia programa dele fundos falam, dá recursos, mas de motivação tem que mais você povo timor será grupo jovem será lema quando ele será a consultação e de nemos tem que falar jadi ni dehan kita nono jadi jovem será colega será neve mos lau muito ko grupo agricultura será a cara hari organização fom e ideia rumah para o futuro cara sai capacidade para manter manter phone se hetan embaixada Australia sira tem que mos pagar ini tapi ini mak atu hanya federação mos pa embaixada Australia sira tapi ini Laos state embaixada Australia ini mos timor ni jadi sira belfo itu tuan maybe ini mos tem que suba naik sira Vettori al Parlamento su referere agricultura. Jadi ini memang ini Moskow sila kaliba itu buat sila.
Señor Ambassador, foto na conhecimento cliente para ele, mai how amin tatampo kita aula polia em nome de organização na polia hanesan pesquisador ou senhora sempre suku poli husu mai ita antau enggak pesquisador honda imborwan ida sinora sepsuku ni pergunta kono hares pesan ihnya railara dia kona kasih tahu dia kita label dehan sidau dia label dehan dia kona maibe kita persisa hal buat partang gori paoi antau hawanoi ada soin halbehan sinora ambassador oin hatan ke ona buat me mai literasi buat kita teknologi kita hahura sih kita ni ang rasik untuk upungan rasik kita ni ang rasik yang baru mai aku itu deh mai be presiden review mai itu sih kita rasik harai larang deh laos atau salah deh naik subsidi tapi upung holoti dia mai be hamu sih kau buat itu lihat itu hamu tuh kalau tapi saya bawa itu lebih salah ini andau hamu noi buat mai be itu harus negara pos pesquisa dari sisi perspektiva makawan investe para kita recurso para BIA investe para kita ni desenvolvimento de Timor ani sanda tahu itu governo hala que nos investe em educação botar treinamento para o nível apoio para poder nível kita telepon di bori hala lalai progresso itu nerai itu nos faida honoi tambah kita halo itu ne malo persepsi ramai se hanoi kita persediaan recurso para também dalam parte sorti bot si lori recurso humano mai contribuikan pa kita mai be atau dehan de nai lolos ne kita raina kita sira akin hahu koi depois sir mai aku tande sai ne la bele hal mes ono ida ne ma buat ne on gambe tu bele kotam na I just made more the word ambassador just mentioned but I'm talking from the research perspective. One thing I would say related to the chief of village's questions about what you think about the current situation in Timor-Leste. I'm not saying that we are still slow to. I mean that we are still slow to progress at the moment. And the reason is that we know that the Timor-Leste is still young and we need more to do. And from the research perspective, we think that one of the most important things for us to do is investing more in the young generation, and for example, like the government of Timor-Leste already invested in education and some other professional training that may support the groundwork that we can use to progress the development in Timor-Leste. And I think that and one of the key issues here is not about relying too much with other foreign partners, but the main important for us is we need to start with our own, and then we need to find where the other partners can play some important role to support our effort to do the development here in Timor-Leste. And but one of the critical things depend on us as a local people how we can start up something to do and bring our people to support.
Saya bersyukur itu ni pergunta ni kapas bos mas atau for observation laws itu ni sentimuan au hanoin kita precisa kreatividade ne tem que mostrar mais usi ya ni jovem se ne mais usi ita no ita tem que reconhecer até agora down ne ita yang modalidade para por exemplo agora ita ya perma youth camp nebe jovem para mai ne hane sa modalidade dia kita bangoin au hanoin modalidade sira hane sa ne makita tem que expanda atau bele motivatan jovem sira selo exemplo sira selo se how bele permite tem hane sa grupo jovem to di sira asa laudate si ni sira ha grupo mai be hane pa jovem de sira balo foi graduou se escola sira foi balo ramata sira se balo escola mai be sira hamuto ki hane ba no sira sa grupo botida hane ba no bele contribui ideia para bele apoio para ideia konsepto rumah para mudança climática no au hanoin modalidade sira hane sa nema ita precisa apelar no bele sa motivaliutan ito na jovem to sira ya futuro. Just in English summary, I think the question is reflections, but this is back to the young people because the initiative, the creativity should come as from the young people, but we need to recognize that we have good modality at the moment. For example, permaculture youth comes today. A lot of young people comes together, and this is good showcase. And can permit me to say here is another young group, Laudate Si.
they are young groups, they are young people. Some of them just fresh graduate, some of them still in study. They comes together in the group, and they have a contribution, some ideas contributing to the climate change country long-term perspective. So I think for the futures, what we will encourage our people to do is the modality like this will be expand more in more communities, and that will be attract and more attract young people to be able to participate.
Dear kita say we still have 5 minutes left. I would like to give it the opportunity to the 5 minutes left, so I would like to have both of you to give your suggestion, because the one now, you two and both of you can make it short, because we only have 5 minutes left, and then we'll next to the second section.
Thank you, Ambassador, for coming. So permaculture emerges in the late 1970s out of Tasmania in Australia, and through the permaculture design course, movement forms. In Australia, we feel about 150,000 to 200,000 people have done permaculture design courses, gone back to their community, changed their lives, started farming seed taking groups and things like that. I'm here in a country today where I don't think permaculture has been embraced at such a level of government anywhere in the world, through education, through agriculture, and I'm just as a board member of Permaculture Australia, I'm thinking maybe all this action is bottom up at the community level. Do you think there's a role for permaculture to play in Australia from a top-down perspective?
I'll traduz intertunai.
What's your name, sorry?
John Champagne. Okay, Mom, John, George.
Can we finish it together and then you can make translation?
I'll translate. Okay, Mom, John, ni board permacultura Australia, parece ito waktu penyesekiannya. Ni dengan kata que permacultura movimento deve mai husi Australia, mas ele começa a fazer cursos Jadi cursos ulu, depois criar ali movimento board. No, ali usi cursos 350,000 orang waktu itu orang cursos permacultura em Australia. Fila fale sini base, sini comunidade, implementa dia. No, agora em mercado tos nain sirania, deve lá os criar usi governo, mas deve usi tos nain sirasi. Iha MNB Raifini, iha grupo barak makare bakun permacultura. Tapi nia mai tiap timor, nia senti wow ituan. Tambah nia dengan kata nia hari permacultura iha timor mah ema barak liu dibanding nasaun sirsel, ema barak ya nasaun timor mah sada foti ona permacultura nia Sarà listaun idea que cursos trabalha desenho sirene haro pos permacultura não é impress los nia sente idene buat idene be uniku bahtimornya não é jangan kata perguntas para masyarakat lain parece idene perguntas para situan wensa ini Australia maka dele Australia for people possibilidade de kalau movimento hanesan em Australia kalai, também hari timor ne uniku aho permacultura nia kan agricultura nia, mas em Australia ia possibilidade kalai.
Contare, colleagues. Just a question for the panel and to people attending. How does the panel feel about the seasonal work program in Australia for the young, sending the young and able Timorese to Australia to cook food on predominantly monoculture farms in Australia for Australian consumers? And how does this initiative help build a skilled workforce in Timor for like for Timor-Leste, empowered small-scale farming initiatives for economic and community prosperity, because it's to go over to Australia in such a context, the environment here, how can we help create opportunities here without sending out the best people to Timor, to Australia, that would be good for us.
Tenemos preguntas preguntas media. Y tenemos Felix, ni musuh konoba programas opinion nebe haruka sada kolega Timor Leste Australia berisik ba. Nah, ini perguntas kami. Masa ka unsa ita haruka fali ema tu ba review sebiswe menilai o monokultura. Jadi agrikultura nebe ide laga laos permakultura ini mana monokultura bate mercado Australia ba konsumsi Australia povo Australia mas ide siramos hetan skill no pas dari balon heba jadi ini perguntas mas implementa skill ka pas dari debe sir hetan in Australia misalnya mai po Timor siramos implementa hetan apakah iremos saya oportunidade ide ba pasal Australia program ide entre Australia no Timor odi hare misal ho kita harus kayak mabang review ba comprene amsa siro label prene ya Timor right Timor apa nih Timor skill anesa forma agricultura lain permakultura apa sebabnya
Thanks very much. So it's a very good question. I think so. It's a little hard for me to answer, partly because our role is because we're outward focused to other countries. So in any public policy making, there are, as you've alluded to, there are ways of changing policy and having reform. I've never worked in domestic policy in agricultural or otherwise conservation. So there are definitely different ways of looking at reform, both in public policy and in changing practice. So I think what I would say, because I'm not a domestic policy or program specialist, there are lessons, certainly in reverse, that we can learn from Timor-Leste. And one of the things I'm very passionate about as an internationally focused is a learning very practical, and some of it's at
Australia te aprende busi Timor. Jadi ini kayak prinsip konoba aprende dua jalur, Laos jadi ada ramai, vice versa. Jadi ini os kayak bone metin, no ni hari satu hasai pasti ada, hodi pesquisador sira, hodi ema nebe consider lain-lain di Australia, ma aborigin sira, nomos lain-lain Timor, mos trocas ideas, sedia prática, e nível pesquisa minha, e nível prática minha. Nomos vencer comunidade sira, mos bela share aqui, atu hanesan from the youth camp. Atu vencer hari reformação balumba politika domestik di Australia malah.
And the second question on labour mobility. So, just give a little extra context, just to try to answer that question. So, the question's for me rather than my colleagues, because the labour mobility program is run by a separate team to my colleagues. So, a couple of context setting. So in the beginning, so labour mobility in Timor-Leste has been going for about 10 years. It definitely started with seasonal work, so it was very much, in the early days it was nearly all fruit picking, seasonal, and it was very unskilled, and not just Timorese but Pacific Islanders coming in and out picking fruit. So it's very much at the unskilled end. Over the last probably 5 years, the program has developed into a full labour mobility program. So the late mobility program can, in its current form and into the future, what we are building now is semi-skilled to skilled opportunities and more skills training before and after, and integration. So it's no longer a standalone workers recruiting effectively to replace backpackers who were no longer picking fruit. It's really expanded in the range of skills and the type of skilled work on offer and the type of training that is being offered both in countries that are sending workers and then also in country. So it's much bigger than recruiting workers for agriculture, monoculture agriculture.
Aku akan ida mau Felix nia perguntas nia for konteks tu balun uluk bele dehan kata haru ke timor timor bati Australia modi ko iPhone siran ni usa termos unskilled lah skill mai be ini ya ini 10 tahun lalu, ada agora ia konteks tu sefopenia, mos ia programa debe timoroan sira mos etan oportunidade tu hasai sir ni perhasilade molok atu bate Australia, mos depois de programa tu. Jadi ni ada kata ini mos ia aprendizagem ka parallel learning ia laran la ausdate atu serviço, mas vemos atu aprende Kalau satu bano, depois de Indonesia a capacidade de treinamento em Timor, vamos ihat Australia.
Probably the other thing to say about the PALM program is it's Pacific plus Timor-Leste, and it's run with countries that have asked for matching with Australia to be able to support government approaches to mobility and employment. So it is very much supported by, not just by government, by communities. There's a large interest. There is, as you've said, there is also one of the balancing issues is losing skilled younger people, and it's not just from rural and agriculture type roles. It's certainly young people from cities who are leaving jobs because they're getting the opportunity from more income. So there is that balance is going to continue. We will continue to assess that. We're commissioning a lot of research on the impact of mobility on not just host countries but communities, and helping to balance that labour market demands but also opportunities.
Atau meta mos idane mai husi nasaun nia hakara mos komunidade nia hakara então programa PALM-nya mai husi Pasifik nasaun Pasifik no mos Timor-Leste hotu deve ser husu governo Australia basi porta no laos nasaun Estados-Unidos mai komunidade mos husu. No, agora será mos hareba pesquisa usa oportunidade ga usa serviço idane mos for impacto dunia ba nação mos comunidade será.
So there are certainly some of the points you've raised, Felix, are very important, and we'll continue to consider those for not just Timor-Leste. But it's even more relevant for small Pacific countries where actually the populations are very small, much smaller than Timor-Leste. So for what we are finding through research and labour market assessments and working with communities in government is that communities and employers notice it here, but the volume of workers is still in keeping with the proportion of the population.
Atu amin tadi idane laos mos konova atu lako ne memang ene katia serviço Australia mas idane hareba ema hotu deve tama pa programa no mos idane hareba existência karunia Jadi população yang nação Pacífica nia, sira minha população que leu Timor, então sira areba fazer porcentagem ga ini memang reflekta filafali ga relevante ba sira minha população.
And I'll just close by saying, at its best, and it's not to say everyone has this experience, but we have some really practical examples from people we know who have gone to Australia. There is certainly a young man we all know who now runs a coffee shop down at Bistro Ray. So his story is quite well known because he was from a very remote area of at Sabe, coffee growing area. About 12 years ago, went to Australia, was able to bring back enough money to invest in some coffee production in his village. Then through one of our other programs, which is it's some funding, some expertise, coming back, accessing other programs, ingenuity and innovation, and then also coming back and building something that you can contribute to, not just the community, but to the country.
Tutaka ho story ida, exemplo ida. Idane lao sema ho tu mak experiência mai de nia poti exemplo ida ho simão ida ho lo ni nala. Aneta nebe nia iha cafe at Sabe. Ulu 12 tahun liupa nia batia Australia ho programa pamian nia sibisu ini ba to nia hetan osan tu investe ba produção então nia main to Timor mak nia investe kali ba nia rai depois nia mo seta oportunidade de use programa selo kuno ba hasai produção no ekonomia nia. Jadi mana kailan dengan kata ini mehi ya saya mak idea mak rasanya siklu ide nebe ema tama ya programa se sirba mos bere investe kali barai Timor nomos ekonomi Timor sira Australia sira mak for recursos balon da oportunidade dari balon expertise teknik balon mas alasan ini terlihat hawa metode reform motivação ga inovação mai kusi Timor wansira nebe investe di kali ini.
Mai tahutnya bahasa lima makas dari advisor berpasnya ekipa. Ida nama ka politika, nebe maka governo Australia nomos governo Timor Leste desenha, ele uba assunto da questão mitigação, nebe maka tahun ini hasur korban mudança climática. Então, temos a resposta na política no desenho. Obrigada Barak, a embaixadora, no nossa equipa, no manager, para a recepção da primeira. Mas a outra é Basa Lima. Thank you so much. Agora, esta é a sessão da rua aqui, com o Leo e a Ona Pati. Não é a Ona que está convida para o Leo, mas a outra é Basa Lima, para casa com o Leo. Sessão primeiro lima ita termina na embaixadora, sessão segundo ita se amutu pali ho Mount Leo se kolia ko ituan ko na ba development of popular agroecology school as an alternative education in Timor-Leste. Ba Mount Leo ita iha 45 minutos para Mount na apresentação, beleza minuto baru ba apresentação, mas sessão tuir pali iha perguntas nato. Tempo toma ko entrega. Pak Manager sekarang tradução itu depois.
I'm just going to say that this is Mount Leo Suarez from the Dalak Sulimutu Institute, which in English it's hard to translate, but it means small rivers flowing together. So I'll give the time to Mount Leo, and then I'll translate per PowerPoint.
Obrigado, Barak. Boa tarde, baik todos. Contenti dalam hal ini representasi nessa organização local yang lebih harus sebarang provinsi dan pos main bele mai partilha a muito com itenia delegado internacional atau nasional também ne momenti da fuori la rimanita delle partite romane.
My name's Leo, and yeah, as earlier mentioned, I'm from KSI. We work with young people and farmers, and I'm super excited about this session.
How tenta to la prensa urban barak taboy quasi contributi na beo pasadora o equipa kunya para kuna betul mana behawat ko presenta primeiro atare anesan hari ini review baik dari situação geral atual ini problemas ligado ao ambiente depois ao jovem no saída maka pelo menos anesan a minha organização vai contribuir para
So I'm here to talk about the real issues that are facing us in terms of the space of agriculture, the space of climate, and how our organisation looks at addressing these.
Sebenarnya how mau satu dihatakan kata terdahulu ni hawarisan koridor by sekolah ruang, sekolah popular, bebe Mazovensina, sekolah ida tabolo sekolah popular agroecologia Betano, dia base é Betano, no escola de selo tabolo Instituto Economia Política da Slono, nebe ni base Gleno.
I'm the coordinator of two programs. The first one is a popular education program in Betano, which is in Manfadi, and the second one is in Ermera.
Sekolah luar ini konsentra para formação para jovens sila jadi ya agroecologia dan ekonomi solidaria.
Both of these programs focus with young people on popular education for agriculture and economic solidarity.
Hal lain atau betul-betul konteks tujuan baik dengan tadi. Datangnya ya mundo nomos ya timor kita enfrenta crise boa problema boa nebe tabolo crise social humanitaria ida selo kita tabolo crise ekologia crise ambiental ida problema boa di crise social humanitaria ne ida ya problema boa tidak menambah hamblahan kia nomos desemprego masal nebe por volta si ya timor ini por volta si ini população 48,3% ne dia tidak multidimensional. Nebe significa seria falta de air, seria problema de voz, seria problema agricultura, ya problema quanto eu economia, e nível makai, direct tu halo itu população ne semoris tinha aqui a
So I want to give some context to what's happening in Timor and also the world. We see that there's two major crises happening. The first one is humanitarian or a social crisis. This one is really important because it talks about poverty. And the second one is the ecological crisis. So with the humanitarian crisis, there's by the Human Development Report, it's 48.3% multi-dimensional poverty in Timor-Leste, which means that there's a struggle to get access to food, to water, and to safe living situations.
Lausnya di Timor, mas sosial humanitária ne, iha mundo tomat, por volta de população 2,5 bilhões de população, se não morre status vida insegurança significa se lá tem abana Tuhan saya, baru Tuhan saya, nebe sila modis pagli pa sobrevivência nebe oi saya não vai ter nem sila hangre nem por volta itu ni metade sudah população do mundo todo dele a África no Ásia entre frente situação.
So this also means that for some people they don't know what they're going to eat tomorrow and they don't know where they're going to find food to eat tomorrow.
Problema ini selalu problema ambiental, problema ekologi. Kita tadi kata yang mundo tomat, por volta se tinha planeta, né, tinha lá, né, 71%, 21% ocupa-se bem, né, ocupa-se bem. Mas bem, entre 71, né, kita ia bem pelo consumo de fresh water, né, ia 3% bem. Selo né, bem, bem, bem.
So, as we know, the world is about 71% water, and about 3% of that is fresh, and only 1.2 is drinkable. So, we are facing also a water crisis.
Ito yung problema ini, problema krizi na acontece ini lain quase tem problema karatinan tanpa mudança climática na ilha para normal kalau kau jadi be mata sida barak magmara pesquisa na be halo ya instituto halo ya 2018 aturu kata por conta de 5% do usi be mata 36 na be halo pesquisa agricultura sudah nggak acontece sobre ser barang ya kata kusi suku sistemik no bukan sistem sistem mas be ironi ni kan betul mana be quase migração laboral de modo de ser jovens que ser harus serviço ya cultura então betul mana loris situ sama luar be lori baik aku hari kata acontece ironi dengan be baik dari jovens.
One of the issues that we also talked about earlier in Mana Caitlin's panel was that, young people in Timor are less interested in working in the agricultural sector. And there's a tendency to move away from the agricultural sector or agricultural work to other forms of labour. But the irony is that a lot of young people who go to work overseas, especially in Australia, they continue to work in the agricultural sector. So it was an interesting point Felix had earlier about moving people from one place to another to work in agriculture, and who's that serving?
Saya maka causa, kami hari causa struktural lubu kita kami hari pesquisa identifica buat kita kami hari maka itu nya educação atual ni kalau educação de antropocentrismo. Nebe ni orienta forma ema considera ema mak centro ba koto. Nebe ema fo ignora sa ignora dia esencia o si itu ni ambiente. Leu be rai. Nebe ema pela koto para extragar para ver sustento de minha necessidade. Ema extragar pouco, extragar tinha atmosfera depois for halo poluição da minha base. Então a minha parte do resultado do si tinha educação antropocentrismo na be considera ema lugar centro ba bototo e ema egoísmo bo atau estraga tinha ambiente.
One of the things, one of the major structural causes that our research has found is that education that we get is around humans, and what we understand through this anthropocentric education is that people as the center or the essential, but people have also destroyed a lot of things. So we find out that what people in history, people through history have done to destroy the earth, destroy water sources, and also I mentioned that the way that humans' egos have developed and how that impacts also the way that we destroy earth, or the way that we perceive our earth, our land, and our water systems.
Kalau saya maka ini sistema global nabi kedolong sa kapitalisme global nabi niya mai ho desenvolvimento de ho destrutivo e nabi tarefa kata que país global tira desenvolvimento indústria na bot fábricas bot que se produz suar e se produz poluição barat nabi estraga o planeta, estraga a atmosfera, no fim causa mudança climática nessa nova soru, bemara, benornaro, italah tene tempo de deserto vai estar tene componência da curvatar atau alnatar tambah tempo ne clima ne se permuda tu ia bisa terjadi nela.
The second structural cause that we have probably all heard about is global capitalism. The way that capitalism pursues big industry, destroying or destructive development, and the way that greed has overtaken our need for other more important and essential things, the way that it's destroyed our earth, etc., and the pursuance of destruction.
Kita selalu mengenai intinya educação dan be orienta para Leo atau hatan dan interesse mercado. Ini significa em uma escola depois para hari yang saya dibeli a los serviços nebe intendência para entender é uma escola para serviço para e tem educação ainda ela contribui para a consciência como jovens serem a trabalhar problema social, problema ecologia, problema ambiental que acontece em no nosso mundo.
The third structural issue is education and how the education system in general often looks at the individual and the pursuance of individual success, or the way that individual knowledge-based education, the way that it focuses on market interests, the way that it focuses on an individual looking for work to fulfill that global capitalism system that we talked about earlier. And it means that there is a lack of social consciousness and also ecological consciousness integrated into our education system, because we're just focusing on the one person and not the whole ecosystem.
Ini selalu maka absensia usianya politika nasional bagi kultura nomos ambiente. Kebetulan mereka sebagai politika dia bagi kultura nomos ambiente itu potensi bot khusus barat dinilai abandono barat ITB khusus natural barat mai be sebagai politika dia atau inisiatif itu jauh sih bela interesse ya setor hirne no fim jauh sih atau dia kata dia buka itu tapi kita lihat sel sini kata Timor La Esperanza.
The fourth major structural cause is the absence of a national public policy and programs in both agricultural sectors and in environmental sectors. So an absence of that at the policy level and also the political level means that young people, how are they supposed to get into these sectors? How are they supposed to engage in agriculture and environment when it's not written into national policies?
Buat tidak nabe hanisan, lori baita, nabi dari dia kita mat, kita fairona semana hari global, jombe sila mati atas silaran di Korea, bakari kan. Nabe baita ni hanisan bersama dengan nabe, kita tasi barat, tasi luar, kita diikat sila bakari legal, kita lain politik dia, para wisata bele, kari ini kita silaran, tapi jombe sila terminus bele for emprego ba jovem sira ya. Então, lá América kita tem absência política. No fim, itu jovem sira para serviço hanesan etan autoridade seda. Ifan seluk ne lawan describe. But si sama itu baita ne hasan ya efisien baita. Kita potensi bot tu baita lawan desa bot no fim jovem sira pasai atan yang merai.
This is off the back of really poor, very sad news that came last week when a young Timorese worker who was working on the boats in South Korea, he is, as far as I know, died whilst at work, so died while out fishing. And the conditions that they're under in Korea are quite grave. And so I think on this, trying to say that how can we let this happen, and we know that it happens, like that we send people away to work when we could actually have a national policy focusing on young people working in their own land and their own waters, and that might also be a protective factor to young people's safety, but also the prioritizing the environment here as well, prioritizing economic opportunities here too.
Tamanay maka kulisaw si Ronaldo ba ita ni sekolah luar academy konsentra ka jovem siya. Primero luar jovem siya tu hari kata importansya si nasa servicio de agricultura, no importancia mo sa mata baik ni ekologia, baik ni ambiente, protege IPNB, conserva IPNB, protege el ecosistema. Y bisa contribuir al menos a los avances a nivel local para ver atamba problemas sociales y climáticos que acontecen en el aire, acontece en el mundo.
And I think that's where the two schools that KSI and Mongolia is a part of focus on, and it's a response to this phenomena. How can we increase opportunities to contribute here and to create opportunities for learning and for employment and for looking after our land and the ecology in Timor-Leste. So TSI's schools are a response to the phenomena of the systematic causes that we talked about earlier.
Tapos ang itakar konsentra pa jovens tuir census ni behatur kata itini população purvo de 70% de 70% de população né di bawah 35 tahun ne ihat tinan tonoris in gino mai kala itu be população kalau transfer na saúde de população jovem.
Why do we focus on youth? Well, Timor is a young country, but in the meaning that under 35s make up about 70% of the total population of Timor.
Kita precisa educação de concentra para jovens kita precisa educação de contribui para que participação jovens e desenvolvimento da base de socioeconômico no nosso ambiente atau muito com a comunidade muito com a cultura local lalu serviço seria a base de contribuir para a transformação ativa.
And I guess our methodologies, and maybe you'll talk about that later, is how our education programs, they concentrate on how to increase the participation of young people, not just in the school, but outside of the school, so in their socio-economic life, in their community, and how to foster more engagement through youth, but to the wider community.
Itini sekolah orang doa yang hotel ida Institut Ekonomi Full Data Sulul IFS ni tahu ya bos beli kinci mau di selo ke sekolah popular agroekologi betano ni tahu ya bos beli tes poin inaroba bakotu kita konsentra ya itini kurikulum konsentra ba agroekologi na mos ekonomia solidar.
So the Institute of Economy in Sulul, Fully Data Sulul, school parece a pronuncia salah, also known as IEFS, commenced in 2015, and the Popular Agroecological Botano School commenced in 2023, and they both concentrate, as earlier mentioned, on solidarity. So there's economic solidarity and agroecology.
Conceito ponto ano be America lori agroecologia nessa aproximação de a proficiência e também disciplinário a nós jovens se compreende com a importância da agricultura no nosso tema halo agricultura mas a importância se conserva que se protege o ambiente. Então a maneira que kita essa aproximação é importante também tem agricultura convencional, agricultura tóxico que também usa aqui no estraga de anasira. Namun gente yang praktik agricultura tradisional nebe asal sunu no kese ai nebe para que hemos contribuir ba itenia mudança climática. Também na agroecologia né essa alternativa ide ba prohibir.
Our schools focus on how to do farming, for example, whilst also protecting the environment. So looking at protective agroecological methods. Focusing on traditional practices that I think, as Monego said earlier, have always existed in Timor, and trying to continue those traditions as they make sense to the land. And the other one was to look at harmful practices and to deter from harmful practices like using lots of chemical fertilizer.
Nebe sekolah luar ni langsung kasih mahal, kasih luar sekolah nebe hari si orangnya sama lebih tidak, namun punya agricultores si municipio lima. Nebe punya agricultores si memang Hermera, Manufahi, Kovalima, Bikeke, Ikisa, punya lima yang mutu. Kamu tu kau yang jauh sida kasih permati nasib mana termini ho mau saya pas ini formador ba sekolah ni. Organisasi sosial pos YP no sosial kita não kata serviço social kita halo komunidade de Platão kita precisa preparar jovens ya bersama para jovens para construir sirnya conhecimento sirnya consciência nós transforma sirnya atitude sai de berwarna galos ya tu bele contribui bagi nilai kita.
These weren't just built by KSI, it was a community-led effort, but also from many different organizations, including unions, agricultural unions, and including civil society, and also including young people and community members in 5 municipalities.
Kita cara sama inspira, itu ko sama bela inspira movimento ini, itu ko sama bela construir movimento ini. Jovem sira bela bukan ifat-fati bela harus lebih bela halat asam sira nivel oyo ini suku di bela aldea itu sira conecta lama. Kita cara hari movimento boti dari di boti con agroecologia, dari boti con permacultura, conservação be, betul kan beli kesama conservação ambiente na nossa cultura. Então, kita ia harus bisa bawa tidak kan, o tempo rumah jovem seperti ação, e sira bela conecta lama, aprende lama, e sira bela halação be produce apa.
So we really want to answer the question of how do you inspire the movement? How do you inspire such a movement? And I think one of the main questions, the main reflections was how can young people take the lead and also maybe pick up the shovel and do the actions themselves? How can we help them connect them together? And how can we connect them to education and resources? So that's sort of an overview of our vision.
Kita ni jovem sira bela mai sekolah luar ni. Sira mais município Sanulo, sira usi Marfahi, mera Bobunaru, Covalima, aí nós leu que Bau de Kisa, Atauro no Mecosi. Sira balong agora parece que outro bem ritmo, tinha estudado sira. Sira balong ini. Então,
so we've got some of the students from KSI who just raised their hands. And KSI have students from 10 municipalities, including Auro, including Akusi, and some other municipalities. The students go back to their own community. The students go back to their own communities and they implement a community. And then they come back a month and we write a report together and they present it at their...
Kita bukan tenta Tuhan bersama. Primeiro ni carne tinha conhecimento local, sira matéria local, e tempo nessa ibu começa a incorporar ciência mundial, ciência civil. Kita lá pode tomar matéria que mais civil, mas Europa, da usia passamos sira mas kita buka bersama promover mosi di matéria local sira logistik tinha dia sira atau tambah tafsir deração baderação. Kita cara construir buat kita lebih tabulu lokalização. Kita jovem sira visão global, sira ni ação local e impacto global.
So the main principle that the organization holds is actually to promote local knowledge and traditional knowledge and also mix it in with global science. Obviously not all global science is relevant to some of the contexts here, but that's where local knowledge also can replicate that. And they come with the localization, but here it also says a movement for globalization. So a big global vision, but local action that has a big global impact. So not people from outside coming in, but the local impact can be globalized.
Menoi kita dalam ada asam lokal ni bisa dia ni impacto global. Kita kudai, kita konservasi, kita kudai ni kita planet aja deh. Kita betul pun asam ni kita harus ya timur ni for impact.
This, but I know that they're raising me. We know that things that Americans done has impacted Timor. So why can't we do something that then impacts them, but in a positive way, obviously? So how can we reverse or at least attend to the needs of climate change and adaptation, whilst also growing our own food and looking after the bellies and the minds of the people in our communities. So that's all for the presentation.
Non è ancora un'opportunità per mantenere
Opportunity teus Roma. Você que matamos o que era Ministério da Agricultura Carpas. Caricatan Ministérionya